What's up, everybody? This is Marco from Audio Lounge. Today, I just want to go over something that I do before every single mix. Just something I do to get prepped and make the entire mixing process feel a lot more smooth and seamless, so that when I decide to sit down and mix a song, I can get right into the actual creative process and not have to worry about um, getting other things set up that may be less creative and more time consuming. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's just jump over to the screen here. The session I have open in front of me here is a song that I completed recently with a band. And I'm not going to play too much of the song because the song isn't out yet, but you can see there's a lot of layers, and I'll show you how I like to organize things because I don't want to be dealing with all of this when I decide to sit down and actually mix it. I want to just get right to being creative and having fun doing the actual thing. I don't want to be spending time figuring out what's supposed to be in the song, what's not in the song, what was muted, what's supposed to fade, all those kinds of different things. Um, so I'll go right to the top here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I always leave the session as is. So in case we need to make more changes or whatever, I can go right back to this session and then I'll just import any new tracks to my mix or whatever later on. So I would just name this, 25th, and then I put mix prep. So that tells me that this session here on the 25th of June, I prepped this ready to mix, so that the next session after this is usually going to be the mix. So from here, what I do is I go right to my my master bus or my mix bus, whatever. Ignore a couple of these at the bottom. This is what would be my actual master bus. These other ones are just for you guys to hear me, but the first thing I'll do is I'll take off any compression because I like to mix completely from scratch. I never like to use any sort of templates. I have a system or things that I like to go to, plugins that I like to use often, but I never have things that I will just import into a session, only because I don't want to get caught up in just kind of a recycled, way of doing things. I like to be inspired by the way something sounds or the things that I'm given. I don't like to try and mold things to fit what I want. I like to try and conform to what the song is telling me to do. So the first thing I do is make sure my master bus is completely empty. And then I take and I just mute literally everything and I go all the way to the top. And this is just how I organize my sessions, but I prefer to have drums at the very, very top of my session. And even so far as the having the click track at the very top. So I'll even find that really quick. I saw it in here earlier. Yeah, it's right here. These are extra bell hits for something. These are just effects that are in the intro of the song. So for right now, I'm just going to mute those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over to the drum kit. And I'm just going to start working my way down. So same thing, I'm going to kind of get rid of everything on the drum aux. Now, it can be easy to think that maybe I'm getting rid of some of what you might call like the draft mix, and I'm like eliminating ideas that we might want to bake in. But ultimately, I'm familiar with the song enough. I've been working on it consistently over the last couple weeks. I'm kind of very, very familiar with it, and I always have this session that I can go back to and open up if I need to reference anything. If there's anything super, super serious or something that I think I might forget, where it's like maybe a weird delay time or some weird funky processing that I don't know if I can maybe reproduce, if it was like just an off the cuff kind of thing, I'll just leave those in there. But for most of the things, I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Like you can see this little automation point here. It's probably just a drum fill. I'll go back and revisit that in the mix if I need to, because my hope is that I have gotten a good enough performance to where I can just mix this and not have to worry about getting really, really nitty gritty with automation. Though it's an important part of any mix. Back to the drawing board here. The only things that I like to keep on a drum kit in my mix prep is usually like some sort of compression on the kick drum. So I can see there's a little bit of EQ. I'll leave that. That's fine. There's a little bit of compression. So I'll leave this channel strip on. I'm not going to leave it on for the snare drum. The bottom snare here, all I'm doing is flipping phase and a little bit of volume attenuation with this plugin. Usually if I'm mixing, I'm going to use an EQ first. That's why I flip the phase here, because I know I'm just going to slap an EQ on that plugin at some point. Moving forward, my toms, same thing. I think I have a gate on this floor tom, which is fine. There's not a whole lot of processing going on. I like to have things as raw as possible when I start a mix because I want to hear what the actual recording sounds like. I want to hear what the sounds are at the very, very start so that I can make decisions that are going to benefit those sounds. I don't want to have a sound in my head and try and hope that I can get it out of something. I think I've talked a little bit about this before. I don't want to reach for something. I want to take the sound that I have and cater to it and make that the best thing that it can be. Because that's how we get unique stuff, that thing's never going to be created again. So, like I said, I think I have a little bit of a gate here. I'll leave that. Hi-hats, ride, fine. On my overheads here, I definitely flipped the phase there, and it looks like I probably just peeled out this for some reason. Now, this is a move that I probably don't want, so I'm actually just going to take that out. So essentially, all I'm doing is just kind of getting things to their bare minimum, at least for a drum kit. For pretty much everything else, like as you can see, there's not really plugins. These are just a couple sends here. I'm usually just going to kind of get rid of the reverbs, mute them all, and really just kind of make sure my maybe things are grouped in a certain way that I want, or things are getting sent a certain way to certain buses and whatnot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and work through that a little bit here, and I'll probably speed up a little bit of this. This is also one of those things too where somebody might say, hey, why don't you have a template so you can just kind of have all these sends ready to go? And to be honest, that much is true. I could probably have a template for things like the drums here and bussing all of these little things that you're about to see me do. But at the same time, like, I don't mind too much because it's a way for me to get familiar with the song. Like I said, this one in particular I have worked on quite a bit over the last few weeks, so I'm very familiar with it. But say it was a band that just sent me a song to mix, or maybe again, it's only been a week, or we got it done really quick or something. I just want to take some time to have a little bit of intimacy with the track so that I can familiarize myself with everything that's actually happening, and then just making sure that I am, just double checking any small nuances that I maybe did forget. At the end of the day, I'd like it just, to me, it doesn't matter too much. I don't mind taking that extra bit of time. But for other people, I totally can understand. Just by all means, throw a template up and you can just make this whole part go a lot faster. For a song like this is a good example because it does have some sort of intro thing that happens. I probably threw these hits up here just because they're the only time something like this actually happens in the track. And they're honestly something you probably wouldn't even necessarily mix, to be honest. At least for me, like, there's such effect sounds that I would just kind of let them go, especially being that they're right in the intro. There's not really a whole bunch happening around it. So it just kind of hits right at and then it goes away. So I'll leave those as is most likely, and then I'd move on. Here I'm just going in and cutting out some negative space. Again, something that some people might say, hey, you can use a plugin, or none of that stuff actually matters. This is an OCD thing, so again, use your discretion. I'm not really too concerned with what people have to say about that. It looks cleaner, it sounds cleaner to me. But yeah, absolutely right. You can use a lot of different plugins, a lot of different features, and a lot of programs to do this kind of stuff. It's just something I really don't mind doing, and it's just how I do it. A lot of times too, you can save tons and tons of time with this if you just do this during the tracking stage. Like, this was me just kind of really, really, really flying by the seat of my pants for sure, because we got this this whole EP done very, very quickly. But it's very, very common for me to finish doing a bass track or something, and then I might even, just that night kind of pop the session open again and just take care of all this tedious stuff, because it does add up. My mix prep sessions really don't take this long that often because most of this I'm kind of doing on the fly as well. But this was just a good example to really show you, because there is a lot of kind of just crap everywhere. Awesome. So essentially, too, what I'm doing is I'm not really looking to have like a perfect balance, but I want things to be pretty much in their raw form and in some sort of balance to where I can kind of make sense of everything that's happening. So I have the bass and the drums kind of going right there. That's fine. My guitars, I'm basically just going to unmute really quick and make sure those are fine. As you can see, they're pretty cleaned up already. Pull those down just because. Here's some clean guitars. So those would be all the guitars there. I'm good on that. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to go back really quick and just highlight all of these and just want to make sure that I have no reverb or delay on anything. It's muted right now anyways, but I want to take it off so that when I again get to the mix, I can just go at it with a fresh mindset so that I can do what I feel is right in that moment. But moving on. So all of my instruments will get fed into a mix bus because then at that point I can use that one control to apply effects if I need to, general compression across the whole mix at that point, or equalization. From there, it's kind of nice because then I have basically two controls. At the end of the mix, I have a very, very easy control for the entire instrumental and then the vocals as well. So I can just kind of almost play with two faders to get a good balance. Fast forward to the vocals. Now, contrary to a lot of the instrumentation, this is where I like to leave a lot of maybe effects and automation and things that I've done because 99% of the time, the vocal is the main thing in the song. So I want to keep any of the effects or the way that we wrote the vocals with volume or reverbs and anything like that. I want to keep that intact because that's something that the artist and I probably worked really hard on together, and I don't want to ruin that. So I'll keep that pretty much baked in. And what I like to do when I'm going through my tracks is, I'll color code them. So like anything that's for a verse here, like I have these going to a verse aux here. So then I'll just, okay, let's make all those yellow so I know all those vocals kind of are grouped together and performing at the same time. I'll go over to my pre-chorus section here and let's make these all purple. And then these are overdubs as well, so I'll keep those purple. And then the other thing I like to do as far as automation and things like that, when I have automation on a track, I generally like to keep that track open at least before I mix it so that I know that there's something going on and that I don't blindly think I'm making moves later, adjusting a fader and then move on without realizing that as soon as I hit play again, it just readjusts back to where it was originally. So just a little visual thing just to remind me. Same thing with this one, I'll keep that there. And then I have everything going to their respective buses or auxes. Cool. So yeah, everything is pretty much organized in some sort of fashion. Everything's going down to one final master here. I have named everything. I can clearly tell what's going on. The one thing that I do, like now these are all tracks throughout the entire production that we have added, or maybe it was from a demo track or something at some point had made its way in there, or it was a record track or something. It's dead. I made it inactive. I'm not using it. By the end of this mix prep session, if it's sitting all the way at the bottom below my master here, that's how I know I'm not going to use it. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want to look at it. So I can do one of two things. I can just hide them from my view in Pro Tools, or I can just choose to delete them out of the session entirely. And honestly, that's what I opt to do. I don't want them anywhere in my face. So all I'm just going to do is just click delete, and then it's going to confirm, and I get rid of them. Now, if I need to reference one of those tracks that I've deleted, I didn't actually delete them. I still have them. I can just go back to the session that I had prior to this, and I can just go find that, vocal verse A or chorus background vocal, whatever, and just re-import that track to Pro Tools here. And then I can just go through that playlist, find whatever I need, and then I'll delete the track again. And from there, I'm pretty much good to go. I know that the next time I open up this session to actually sit down and mix it, I don't have to spend time doing all this stuff. It's ready to go. I can get right into it. Like I said, just generally being creative and not worrying about being bogged down by doing a lot of the boring, tedious stuff when I want to be having fun. I know this is probably seems a little bit obvious. It makes things a lot easier going down the line, because it's one thing when you have just one song in front of you, but it becomes an entirely different thing when you've got a full album's worth of material and you didn't do any of this during the tracking stage, and now you've got all this stuff to do, and every mix feels like it's just taking longer and longer because you're doing these daunting, tedious tasks that honestly could have been taken care of beforehand. I like to do all of my mix preps a day or two well in advance of the actual day that I'm going to mix the song, because I like to mix a song when I feel good about it, when I'm in the right headspace. So that could mean that I'm planning on doing something or editing, maybe mix prep for something else. But if I come home and I get inspired and I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm really feeling this one song right now. I'm ready to do it. Chances are I've already taken care of this mix prep and I can get right down to it. I can open up the session and just get right down to mixing. And it enables me to feel good about what I'm doing and not feel like I'm ever forced into having to do a mix, or like I have to sit down and really hold myself down and be disciplined about it. Because although that is a part of it, it just becomes more fun and more enticing. I want to do it more when I'm kind of doing it at my own pace and I'm not kind of bogged down by timelines and things that I did not prepare for. So just a little bit of advice and just a friendly pointer. So maybe you can start implementing something similar in your workflow. This is just what I like to do, how I like to do it. If you have something that you like to do or some sort of mixed preparation ritual, leave a comment below. Let me know what it is. I'd love to hear about it. Maybe there's some way that I can improve mine besides templates. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again for watching. My name is Marco, and I'll see you all in the next video.